Hello there, and welcome to my little booth. I know it's a little cliche, perhaps, to have a tarot card reading booth at the Renaissance Fair, but hey, I'm a bit unconventional, I'm sure you can tell. For example, who would make their own deck of tarot cards? But first of all, I would ask you, what exactly does a tarot card reading mean to you? To me, it's never been about reading the future. What the tarot cards represent to me as a reader is, well, the deck itself, first of all, as you know, is a series of pictures, and those pictures depict different aspects in your life. These are not in order, as I'm sure you're aware. No, I use these to map out my different things, first of all. And through the tarot cards, they might allow you to think about the different aspects in life you might not be thinking of. Things that you might think are, of course, more important. I, for example, am depicted here as the cartographer. You, of course, are... Let me see here. Are here for reflection. You represent the world. That, actually, that might be kind of ironic right now. And for the most part, we're here simply for a good time, right? In life, you need to pause every so often to consider your options, and I would have to say, besides being a lot of fun, the tarot cards can also be a great tool of reflection in life. Some other readers might find rocks or other such objects to be a wonderful focus. Personally, and don't get me wrong, if you wish to leave now, that's fine. Mine happens to be the 8-sided Star of Chaos. Because again, I don't think too much about it as madness. I think about it as potential. So, I invite you here to sit with me and consider the future in positives. If anything here strikes you in some way, please feel free to mention it to yourself as well as myself. And just in case I suck at depicting what the cards may actually mean, I have here the Pictorial Key to the Tarot by Arthur Edward Waite, one of the, well, conventional things. They don't actually look as mine do, however, for this is the Gilded Tarot set by Ciro Marchetti, a beautiful deck that was gifted to me. As you know, tarot cards have a bit more power once they're given as a gift, actually. I've always found myself to be a bit of a gifted reader, at least when it came to myself. You're actually the first person to come to my stand this afternoon. And in fact, well, let's just say, I've never really done it much more than for myself. So let's see here. Here are the typical formations that we tend to use. I myself made up my own, and if I can remember it quite right, I hope I shall, maybe we'll end up doing that as well. Again, based off the 8-pointed star. Actually, they're very beautiful cards, are they not? Hope you can see them quite well. Let's shuffle them up well. The idea with the tarot cards, of course, is that in choosing them, it's rather the deck that chooses them than yourself. So I'm just going to shuffle them for a time until they, you know what, I think right here, they feel quite right. Let's begin with a very simple reading. I'll pick 3 cards that talk about your present standing. One for your recent past, one for this very moment, and one, of course, for the near future, and of course, all of these are things that are very important to consider at this time. Hope I'm not rushing things. Does it feel like this card is right to you? Perhaps the next? No? Yes? Alright, let's just go with the one on the top, just for starters. In fact, I'll pick them all out and then I'll talk about exactly what each of them mean. The Magician. The Nine of Pentacles. What's that? You'd like the bottom card. Very interesting. Very well. The Star. Oh my, oh my. What beautiful artwork, I must say. Wouldn't you agree? Very well. Let's begin. The Magician. A card that represents a person who controls all of the elements. As you might be aware in the tarot, the four suits, of course, are the Wands, the Cups, the Swords, and the Pentacles. In the journey of life that is depicted through the tarot, the Magician is card number 1, very close to the beginning. So, in your most recent past, you felt either imbalance in the cosmos, or that you literally had all your power at your fingertips. Perhaps not quite as powerful as the Strozzi, mind you. I'm sorry, I tend to have a very lovely background in plays. What's that? You'd like to see what the book says about the Magician? I don't mind at all, no. Let me just look it up. It's been a while since I went through it, but yes. Again, I feel like the cards themselves tend to beckon certain aspects to both the reader and, of course, the readee, is it called? Redacto? No. So, if you feel a certain thing the Magician is telling you, that's probably even more valid than what I'm drawing out. Alright, we have here, let's see, the Magician. We'll see here. Depicted slightly differently in the book, with the symbol of infinity over his head, rather than a set of double infinity directly in front of him. Okay, perhaps it's not all that different. The Magician. A youthful figure in the robe of a magician, having the countenance of divine Apollo, with a smile of confidence and shining eyes. Above his head is the mysterious sign of the Holy Spirit, the sign of life like an endless cord forming the figure 8 in a horizontal position. I don't think we really need the description of the card itself. We're rather looking for a meaning here. Let's see here. Yes. This card signifies the divine motive in man, reflecting God, the will in the liberation of its union with that which is above. It is also the unity of individual being on all planes, and in a very high sense it is thought in the fixation thereof. Really, you don't have any other such things, do you, Mr. Arthur Edward Waite? I really should have brought my other books. There are some very interesting ways on reading in here, but I didn't find that particularly useful, did you? Regardless, I'm pretty sure that this card, as far as I'm concerned, represents someone with all their tools at the ready. And of course, since this represents your recent past, perhaps you just finished preparing for a grand project or something like that. Or at least you felt like you were extremely capable for whatever the challenge might have been. moving on. The Nine of Pentacles. Strangely enough, pentacles tend to represent things such as monetary gain or objects or such. In this case, the nine seem to be forming a trestle around the woman who is beckoning to some lovely bird in a garden. Well, of course, seeing as at the moment it's not the best weather outside, springtime, of course, is a wonderful, wonderful time. Actually, seeing as you've come to the Renaissance Fair yourself, perhaps this represents a sense of wonderment at what you're experiencing around you. A bit of an immersion, if you will, for you'll notice her gown, in fact, is blue and has the same sort of designs as the butterflies on it. Perhaps it's a time to, if these things are representing money, which I think they are, it might represent being able to spend your gains for happiness. I mean, some of the cards, such as the fives, are very, very damaging. They mean things such as holding your power at back, being harmed in some way. This, of course, is very fortuitous. I, personally, when I look at this card, I feel like there's an extreme optimism, and that it's about using what you have gained to really get a sense of wonderment out of it. That's as simply put as I can put it. And I don't think I really need to go beyond it than that. Happy we were able to see that quite clearly. So again, we'll consult the book. At the very least, it should make for comic relief. We have the Pentacles, yes. And we have hit the 9. Alright. Oh, when you look at that. The picture in this version, which Edward Waite describes, is very much like the picture that we just saw. Can you... Yes. So this might be a little bit more accurate. Okay. A woman with a bird upon her wrist stands amidst a great abundance of grapevines in the garden of a manorial house. It is a wide domain, suggesting plenty in all things. Possibly it is her own possession and testifies to material well-being. It can mean prudence, safety, success, accomplishment, certitude, discernment. I'm not entirely sure again how that works. As I said, I'm, of course, a very unconventional soul, and I prefer the personal things rather than to whatever the conventional wisdom would suggest, especially since these are but playing cards. They're tools. They're tools for us to consider whatever's happening. So if at this moment in time you feel particularly good about what you have, then there's no reason to feel bad about that at all. No, this, I would say, if you're worried at all about feelings of guilt, put those aside. Put them completely aside, because what you should be doing right now is being happy for being able to use what you've got. That's what I would definitely say. I'm really hoping that this reading I'm doing right now is more for you than it is for me. Again, my own experience has been in doing self-readings, so well, I will say it's a little tricky to get any sort of vibe off of you, so I just hope that what I'm doing here kind of helps you with whatever you're doing. What's that? Oh, why did I put those cards on the side? Oh, of course. Well, allow me to explain before we get to the final card, just so you don't feel that I've gypped you. These are all of the court cards, they're called. The Page of Swords, the Queen of Wands, the King of Pentacles. All of the things that you might find in perhaps your regular deck of cards. You know, the Jack, the Queen, the King. But for each of the suits. Originally, actually, I believe Tarot was, in fact, a bigger version of a conventional card game. There was something you could play with them. I believe it has slightly been lost to time, or at least the divinatory connotations have prevailed over the centuries. Regardless, it's basically common practice for readers to just simply discard the court cards and focus on everything else. Because although these do have meanings, for the most part, as far as their descriptions go, they tend to actually lead towards talking about actual people, such as, oh, on this day in history you're going to meet the Page of Cups, who is a young man who looks very sorrowful. Maybe he'll offer you something that is orange. That sort of thing doesn't exactly help you when you're trying to think of events and aspects in your life. I've never actually used them personally, because I've liked to focus on the stronger aspects, we'll say. Speaking of that, you'll notice that this was, of course, the Nine of Pentacles, which is perhaps not as powerful as, say, the cards with actual giant numbers attached to their fronts. There's a name for them. I believe they're the Major Arcana, as opposed to the Minor Arcana. But again, those are just names. And as you know in life, everything's made up. So if it helps you in any way to think of this being far more important than this thing, or your further card coming up here even more important than this, then, well, that's actually what is, in fact, going on. Speaking of that, we'll head over to our final card, for now at least. The Star. Now, look at this card particularly closely, because I personally have always felt a very great affinity to this card. In fact, if I had to go through the deck and say to the deck, hey, what card represents me as a person? Frequently enough, the Star comes up. Very, very strange. As you'll notice, it in fact has an 8-pointed star right in the middle, as well as a very lovely clockwork device. No, she's not actually a merfolk. A naked woman appears to be pouring water from twin vials back into the ocean. Very mysterious card. Cards depicting night tend to be viewed as negative ones, but I've never really felt that way. I feel like mystery is, of course, paramount to the card itself. Clockwork suggests the arms of fate, of course. These are all cliches, but they're also a bit of guidelines in where the reading is going. So if this is to represent the thing that you're to focus on in the very soon-to-be the future, well, of course the future is always something in which we don't actually have any control over, right? We have control over our choices, of course, but not over what is going to happen. We can only be as prepared in the kind of person that we are, and attempt to either survive or grow from the challenges that await us. Great mystery and great potential is what I feel this card has always represented. The Star. Almost a guiding force, like, I suppose, perhaps in your future, again, perhaps it's not so much what you're feeling, but what's going to happen. So, this is one of the more difficult cards in the deck. Again, cards dealing with mystery are, of course, mysterious. Water is a very powerful force in this card as well. I wonder if perhaps that might tie into something that you're intuitively aware as well. At the very least, I believe that, as the poets have said, you can't step into the same river twice. There's going to be some very shifting events happening in your near future. And although you might not be the same person once they're completed, it's all about a journey, right? So, you'll be the better for it. Although, I can probably assure you that it's not going to be an easy task. Whatever these very powerful and mysterious trials that are coming up are going to be. Again, let's have a look at our book here, because I don't purport to be any sort of authority. I just kind of go off of instinct mostly. But as far as being a magical person, again, I actually believe in the magic of chaos, to put it one way, and I offer you my services completely as a free person, right? I believe intuition and random chance and things such as that are far more valuable than sticking to any set of rules. I mean, I did go with the 3-card thing, but you can tell that I'm kind of just going off of what I feel. And like I said, if you get any particular feelings about what this card means to you right now, that's probably even more valid than what I'm saying. Alright, so again, we'll have a look at the major arcana as found in our book. The star. Here we are. Again, not too different from the card itself we were looking at now. From our Gilded Tarot set to this one. And it says here, no, I don't find the Masons to be particularly symbolic of things right now. A card of hope, interior light, immortality. I can't see that being correct. The figure will appear as the type of truth unveiled, glorious in undying beauty, pouring on the waters of the soul some part and measure of her priceless possession. But she is in reality the Great Mother in the Kabbalistic Sephira Bina, which is supernal understanding, who communicates to the Sephiroth that are below in the measure that they can receive her influx. You know what? I still feel way more comfortable saying that is the aspects of possibility coming to you. Something like that. You know, I seriously believe that after reading such things as this, it tends to mess with my mind just a little bit. And of course, the deeply personal approach is, to me, a lot more valuable, we'll say? Something like that. Take from what you will. This is all just my personal feelings. To sum up, why don't we give this whole thing just a binding power? I like to do that from time to time. Why don't you tell me when the cards feel like they're just, and we'll just pick out one card just to sum it up, of a binding force that really can say what's going on today, that sort of thing. One more cut of the deck? No? One more? Alright. Let's see here. And our card today, just to finish up, is of course the Six of Swords. What did I tell you about going on a journey? They're all kind of in that sort of sense. Swords. What was swords again? You'll see there's a frog in the foreground here. That's very unique. This one tends to like a lot of animal imagery for whatever reason. So if you have something that has to do with that, then that would be correct. Actually, now that I look at things, we have the daylight, which represents today, and the binding force, of course, is again night. It all kind of flows together with a watery kind of sensibility. Interesting, interesting. Almost like one of those gondolas. No, not gondolas. Those things that you'd find in Venice, wouldn't you say? The traveler in her cloak, heading down the river. What could be a better scene of mystery? You've come to me for an excursion, a little escape from your regular everyday life. And you know what? You're going to go back out. No matter the mysteries behind you this day, hopefully you'll be a little bit more aware of maybe not the coming path ahead, but certain thoughts, emotions, powers that you may not have been giving yourself enough credit for. We're all extremely powerful individuals, right? There are untold amounts of paths and powers open to us, and I've always believed in the power of the individual, personally. I don't know about you, but, whenever you go to a tarot card reader, every reader is different emphasis, different things come out. I know that I, for one, am at least extremely unconventional, but I hope, sometimes just having an alternate vision of the way things are done, it can be fun too. So, if you've had a reading before, if you've never had one before, I hope it's kind of gave you an idea of, at least what my approach is. I hope you've had a great time, and I bid you have a wonderful day. It was a lot of fun. I look forward to the next person that may or may not be behind you right now, because, the day goes on. So, take care, and I wish you all of the best.